The 2022 Hardrocker football season is fast approaching. Feel the excitement of Game Day Saturday in Rapid City with fellow Hardrocker friends and alumni this fall. Be there for every home game when you purchase football season tickets that begin at just $75. And remember that South Dakota Mines football features the region's premier tailgating fan experience that happens inside the stadium, with season tickets still available for ramps A, B, and C spaces. Hi, this is Tom Rudebush, the voice of the Hardrockers. Head coach Charlie Floor and the Hardrockers are coming off a breakthrough winning season and are seeking to contend in the rugged Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference with a home schedule featuring top rivals Black Hills State and Chadron State. Get your Hardrocker season tickets today at GoRockers.com or call the Hardrocker ticket office at 605-394-2351. Season tickets are on sale right now for the 2022 season. It's a great day to be a Hardrocker.
3, 2, 1. From Rapid City, South Dakota, and the Hardrocker Podcast Network, focusing on stories on and off the playing surface. This is the Hardrocker Huddle.
Welcome to the Hardrocker Huddle. This is episode 29 today. I'm with assistant football coach and student success coordinator, Rob Sales. How you doing today, Rob?
I'm good, man. What's happening?
Just how's your summer been so far? You know, what have you kind of been up to in the time off, if that exists?
Yeah, that's funny. Time off. So my summer kind of consists of camps, recruiting, occasionally being dad, you know, and then making sure mama's happy at the house. So if you got time and you get all those accomplished, I mean, you got a magic pill, I guess. But yeah, my boy's very involved during the summer. My older boy's a post-22 guy, so he's on the road all the time playing baseball, but he loves it. So kind of go where I can, you know, when the schedule lines up to be there. So either my wife or I are there, if not both of us, if we can. My younger boy took this summer off of baseball. So he's done a couple football camps and some basketball camps and stuff like that. And he actually got invited up this last week to go play in the Big Sky State games up in Montana. So that was kind of cool for him, play with some Montana kids out of Miles City and Baker. So yeah, he had a good time doing some of that stuff. So
yeah, it's still pretty busy summer.
Yeah, huh? Man. I mean, it's downtime is probably bad if I had some of that, you know. My wife would probably kick me out of the house or something. I'd probably bug her too much or something. But either that or I'd have a really big honey-do list.
Sure,
you know?
Sure.
She's
yeah,
like,
we all want to try to avoid that.
Right? It's like, oh, you're going to be at the house? Okay, hey, here's your list of 25 things to do.
That's all right. I'll go to the office.
Yeah, today. You know, it's like, not for the week. That's for today. So, you know, it's all good. She knows that I love coaching and being around some future athletes and doing what I can to make change, and so it's good. She's very supportive of some of that stuff. So.
Sure. I was told specifically to ask you about your improvements in your golf game.
Oh my gosh!
Some teaching from Cody O'Neill.
Yeah. So I think he missed his calling. I truly think he missed his calling. Now, when he says improvement, when you're really bad, improvement is easy. Right? It's just like I still have zero short game, and I might as well throw all of the wedges out of my bag. I have no idea how to use them, but we did figure out how to have me hit the golf ball straight.
There you go.
So
start somewhere, right?
Exactly. And it is the most screwed up hand grip you've probably ever seen on a golf club, but it takes all of that baseball swing out of it for me. So, and you know, it goes straight. So, hey, that's what keeps you coming back. It'd probably help if I played more than like once a year. That would probably definitely help. But hey, like we just talked about, summer's busy.
Yeah.
Summer's busy. And golf, if you can get around in, cool. If not, well, those clubs look good in the garage.
Well, I guess just getting into it, I know you grew up in the Wyoming area.
Yep.
What was it kind of like growing up? I believe Sheridan is where you went to high school.
Yes,
What
sir.
was it like growing up there? What was your family life like?
Grew up in Sheridan, Wyoming. It's awesome. It sits at the foot of the Bighorns. You got farm country, ranching. You got a little bit of, I guess, what you would call city life because it's got a pretty established downtown and things like that. But growing up in Sheridan is everything that you could possibly want to have in a childhood. You can go disappear in the mountains, go camping, fishing, hiking, hunting, doing whatever you need to do. Or you can be in town and kind of go to the pool or wander around downtown and see how many people you can get to have you get kicked out of the store. It's like, hey, you've been here the last 3 days and you haven't bought anything and all you do is talk to me, so go away. But it's fun. It was a great town to just kind of grow up in, ride your bike around and hang out with your buddies and go to the park and do whatever it was, or float the creek going through town, or it's a great place. I have zero regrets or woulda shouldas from living there and growing up there. It was fantastic. I did live in Laramie, Wyoming for my 4th and 5th grade years. My mom wanted to go finish her college degree, and so we went back down to Laramie, which was also another awesome town to grow up in as a kid because it's like you got the university there. And my mom and I lived in married student housing, and so literally I was across the street from the basketball arena and the football field. So if I wanted to go do something, I literally took a 2-minute walk and went through the old dirt parking lot. It's not a dirt parking lot anymore. They've done all kinds of stuff down there. But like when I was there, it was a dirt parking lot. And here I go. I learned all kinds of cool songs that like a 4th grader probably shouldn't know, but it was awesome. And, I wasn't smart enough to go sit or run around and do whatever I wanted to. When I walked in with that student ticket, I went to my seat, and a lot of times these college kids are like, what in the world is this little turd doing in here? But, they don't sit down. It's all standing. And so I was on guys' shoulders through the whole game. It was at that time very accepting of this little 4th grade, 5th grade kid rolling in and kind of being a part of their quote unquote juice bar in the stands there. So I drank a lot of the juice and not the mix. We'll put it that way. And so they treated me really well. Growing up, I have zero complaints about growing up, man. It was awesome.
Sure. So you grew up a pretty big UW fan.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. If you're a Wyoming kid and you aren't a Pokes fan, you probably got to fight every day. Yeah, every day. I mean, it's just part of the culture of Wyoming and growing up, and it's the show in town, right? Because Wyoming has some JUCO stuff, and they get some backing, but the UW is the show in the state, right? And it's just drilled into your head that every kid growing up, whether you're a girl or a boy, man, if you're an athlete, you want to go compete. You want to go be a cowboy or a cowgirl, man. And even like the non-athletes, it's like, where are you going to go to school? Laramie. Where are you going to go do this? Laramie. Because you want to wear the brown and gold, dude. And it was cool. It was cool. It was a really good time.
And then growing up, what kind of initially got you, introduced into sports? Was that more of a friends thing, parents, siblings?
Yeah, so my dad is from Sheridan. He grew up playing football, basketball, doing track. My mom is from LA. She's actually from Los Angeles. And so, she was the one sister with 3 brothers, and they all played football. They all played basketball. They all played baseball. I mean, my entire family on both sides are athletic and athletes. So it's like that was an unwritten expectation. You're gonna be in something. And so it was always kind of part of growing up, but it wasn't really forced. It was like that thing where it's like, hey, we're gonna go do this. Are you coming? Well, yeah. Because otherwise I'm going to be sitting here by myself because everybody else is going. So, so it was just kind of always part of growing up. You're always doing something. My dad was throwing football with me or throwing baseball or, kicking my tail in pig or something, man. It was just like, I still don't think I've ever beat him. I'm going to have to wait until he's like in the walker. And then challenge him. I think that might get me over the hump. I don't know. It's like, I can't shoot sitting down, Dad. So, advantage me.
And then as you kind of got older, I guess you were pretty involved in football, wrestling, track, right? Mm-hmm. Were there any other sports you kind of were playing a lot when you were growing up and into high school? Yeah,
so I played baseball up through my sophomore year of high school. And that summer, you could say I played that summer after my sophomore year, but it was a rough summer at the ranch. My dad had a working cattle ranch, and so it was just really hard getting in and out of town, making practice, being gone for games and stuff like that. And it was one of those things where we had a pretty big drought going on in Sheridan, in Wyoming, actually probably most of the West, Midwest there, but, and it was hard. It was a hard year. And so I didn't make a whole lot of practices. And it was one of those things where my old man and I had a convo about, middle of June, and he's just like, as you get older, I need more of your help. And it's going to have to come from somewhere. So you're going to have to take one sport off. And, hey, I wasn't the smartest kid, but I was intelligent enough to know, hey, we're really the busiest in the summer, so baseball and playing for the troop there is going to not be in my future. I got to go help. And so that really transitioned me into just focusing on football, wrestling, and track. And being in Sheridan, it's small town. It was right around 19,000 when I was in high school. I don't know what it is now, but and so the expectation was you're gonna play your school sports and you're gonna be involved. And I don't, truthfully, like, if I sit back and I think about all the guys that I went to high school with and grew up with, I don't think we had any duds. I think everybody was involved in something. Well, I mean, and I'm talking even down to like the chess club, right? It's like, it's not just sports. Like, you're involved in something, like, to do with the school, that you're representing Sheridan High School, you're representing the Bronx. Like, it's something. You're representing something. And so it was like, that's just the way it was there.
Sure. And when you were kind of, obviously you mentioned kind of being pretty busy, do you have any, while you were in high school, did you have any, really great teams, maybe state tournament teams?
Yeah, so they call Sheridan the football capital of Wyoming, and the rest of the state just hates you because you're good. You win games. At that time, everybody that was playing football, I don't remember any girls coming out yet for football, so I don't want to really sound like I'm focusing on only guys, but it's like everybody's dad had already played for the Bronx, right? And it's like when they played, they won. Your expectation is you will win, you know. It's not, hey, great job, you qualified for the playoffs. It's, hey, dude, you're going to play a state championship game. It's going to happen. And so, like, junior high, middle school, and at that time, there was middle school, junior high, and high school. Our high school was only sophomore through senior. Our junior high was 8th and 9th grade, and then middle school was 6th and 7th. And so a buddy of mine, his old man was a part of the quarterback club, and so they were doing sideline and helping with stats and doing all that stuff. So my buddy was like, hey, you want to go be a ball boy? Well, you know the saying, does the bear do it in the wood? Heck yeah, you know, dang right I'm going to go. And so there was, like, let me do the math. Man, we're struggling. It's Friday. You got me doing this on a Friday, and I'm
Friday
doing math.
Afternoon.
Man. So let's see here, 5 and 7 and 8. So like over that 8-year period, we won 5 state titles. We were runners up twice. So there was only 1 year that we didn't play for the state title. And it was just, that is what you will do. Anything short of a state championship game is like, you failed.
Sure.
you failed to meet expectation. So yeah, it's, you know, there's a reason they call it the football capital.
And it's still like that to this day.
Yeah, they're
even,
still
right?
whooping. They're still whooping, man. And it was funny because I was just talking to one of the 2023 recruits, and they're from Cheyenne, and they were like, you went to Sheridan High School? And I was like, yes, I did. Were they good when you played too? And I mean, I just met her. And the mom was like, yeah, I already hate you. Even though you haven't played football for Sheridan High School in, I don't even know how long. I'm not doing the math on that one. Yeah, a long time.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, a long time.
We don't need to be doing math.
Yeah, plus it makes you feel old, right? Yeah, you don't want to feel old.
Yeah. So what kind of lessons did, being part of that culture teach you, looking back?
It's about one of those things where it's you set the expectation, and that expectation at that time was not set by you or anybody on your team. It was set by the town and just the culture of that program. And, what's the accountability? Well, if you don't win, that was back in the day where you got clowned on heavy. And people in town, you're walking around in a letter jacket. I don't even know if letter jackets really exist anymore in some towns, but like back then, that was what's the saying? Cat's meow.
Yeah.
That was the
it's
thing.
A source of pride.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so it's like you get that Letterman jacket, you wear it all the time. You wear it all the time, and so it was like people on the street would come up and talk to you. Hey, yeah, I see. Football, how, guys fell short this year, or hey, you fell short last Friday. What are we doing? Who do you guys got this week? And what are you guys going to do to fix that? It's like, holy cow. Well, I'm 16 and I barely can tie my shoes. So, I guess we're going to refuse to lose. And so it was one of them things where you got mad. You got mad. And it's like, you know what? I don't like having to answer those questions. I like the, hey, great job, high five on the way by down the street. Much better than this old guy quizzing you and you have no idea who he is, but he knows everything about you. And you're just like, oh, man. Yeah, was I behaving? Did I talk too loud in Perkins? That kind of thing, But that accountability of just the I don't want to call it like a social shaming, but there was some of that kind of stuff where it's just like, I don't want to let my town down. You wear the bronc on the side of your head every Friday night and that yellow helmet, and everybody knows who you are, and the expectation is to win, and that you did everything you could in your power to do that, because that's what was instilled in you growing up. That was every time you walked up to the field, because at that time, in the middle of high school, they moved from Central Field, which was downtown old high school, which was actually our middle school at that time, it was an awesome environment, to the new field up at the new high school. And so that sign went with you. You saw that sign going through middle school, football capital of Wyoming, and all the state championships that were on there. That was where recess was, because you're in the middle of town. There is no like extra space. It's like your recess, your time during lunch is on the varsity football field. And so you saw that sign. PE class, you went out there, you saw the sign. And so when it got moved up to the high school, and as you transitioned through your grades, like now you walk up to practice, you're walking up to practice, and the first thing you see is that the stands kind of pop over the hill is that sign. And you read it, like the sidewalk takes you right, unless you physically like and intentionally look away, it's in your line of sight. And so that it's there, it was constantly there, and it was just something that you just did. And you know, it's like, I talk to the guys now, I try not to really focus on high school when talking to the guys, but at the same time you do kind of use some of that stuff, and you kind of go, hey, not all of us were buddy buddies once we left the locker room, left the field, but during those 48 minutes of Friday of game time, you did everything you could to make sure that that kid was successful or we won. It didn't matter if that guy stole your girlfriend. It didn't matter if the girl didn't like you because she liked him. It didn't matter whether he had a cooler car than you. It was all about winning at the end of the game.
Sure.
And all that other stuff kind of got thrown out the window. And that it was like, I wish I could bottle that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
End of story. End of story.
Yeah, and that's really a great culture to have, too, just to look at those 10 guys or 20 guys as family while you're on the field. Obviously, that's the kind of culture you want in any program, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I was a freshman, and I know freshman football versus, like, your varsity football is way different, but, I mean, just to kind of talk to that culture thing, we had, like, 103 guys out, 104 guys out. For our freshman football team, we ran out of numbers, dude. We actually had a guy in football wearing 00 all the way through 99, and we had dupes. Like, as a freshman, it was insane. It was insane. And do you think we split our freshman team? Heck no, we didn't have two freshman teams. But that was, everybody wanted to play. Everybody wanted to play. So it was crazy. It was crazy.
And obviously you had some success in high school. You eventually went up to Black Hills State. Obviously recruiting's a little bit different today than it was 10, 20 years ago. What was the recruiting process like, and why did you decide on Black Hills?
So, this is going to sound so bad, but it's all right. I ended up at BH playing football, running track, and it was because of two conversations. I was looking at Montana State, Idaho State, and then UNC down in Greeley. And those were where I wanted to go play football. That's who was talking to me at that time. That's where I wanted to go. My mom's from LA, but a lot of that family had moved to Denver. So I had aunts and uncles and cousins, and my grandmother was down there. And so it's like, Greeley, oh, that would be really cool. That's, I could come north and see mom and dad, or I could, drive an hour or so south and see everybody else. And so that UNC had just won a natty. They were rocking and rolling, and we were doing some things. And my old man had a conversation down at like one of the Greasy Spoon mom and pop joints, with a guy that he went to high school with, just sitting around, who had a kid that was older than me. He was a year older than I was, and he ended up at BH. And so they were talking back and forth. I don't know how the exact conversation went, but he came home and he goes, "Hey, I want you to go talk to Mr. Grzalka." And I was like, "Okay, why?" And he's like, "Well, his boy Brent, he's playing at BH, and he would talk to you a little bit about the school and things like that." And at that time, I had no idea that there was even a college in Spearfish, which goes to show how ignorant I was. We ran track meets in high school in Spearfish at the college. Like, hello. We wrestled over here in Rapid at tournaments. You drive by these big signs that says Black Hills State University. Exit here. No idea. I'm going to claim that I was sleeping instead of just that dumb. But that goes along with a bunch of other like stereotypes of going to BH, right? And I can say that because I have a piece of paper said I went there. But yeah, and so I went and talked to Mr. Zalka, and then got in touch with coaches and stuff like that, and talked to Brent, who was already there, and we went and did a game day visit and did some things there, and watched a little bit, and I wasn't completely sold on it, because you're a high school kid, you're like, oh man, I go getting traffic from these other schools and these other coaches and this, that, and another, and my dad was like, okay, you are free to do whatever you want. And that was the one awesome thing about my parents. It was like they gave direction, not directives. Sure. You are free to do whatever you want, right? But I want you to know this. The farther away you go, the less likely it is that I will be there. And that hit me hard because I never thought about it. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think, Dad isn't going to be at a football game. He was at every football game. Now all of a sudden I got to look at, maybe Dad's not going to be at one. Well, that just wasn't an option. And, without lengthening this story out anymore, when we started looking at all the pros and cons and costs and this and that and another and driving and all these things, it's like it made more sense for me to go there. It did. And it was two conversations. Like I said, it was nuts. It was like I went from not even knowing about a program to going to school there. So but it was good. It was good. At that time, the head coach was Russ Martin, who is now down at West Texas A&M, I believe. He was the head coach at Mesa. He was OC at Kearney, Nebraska Kearney and stuff. He's been around forever. And the connection there actually was one of my high school coaches that really got things rolling once I was like, okay, cool, let me look at it. My wide receivers coach in high school, Bill Ryan, actually he played at Shattern, and so did Russ Martin. And so those guys played together. And so that connection actually kind of helped everything move along, where it was like, coaching world, even now, next season will be 21 years in coaching. It is nuts how connected everybody is somewhere to somebody who knows somebody who can loop back. It's what is that? The Kevin Bacon connection or whatever it is. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So that's what really kind of made a connection there and how I ended up there.
Sure, and then obviously you were football and track all 4 years, right?
I ended up I didn't do my last 2 years of track. My junior year of football, I tore my knee up. Okay. ACL, PCL, popped it. Got a really cool picture. It looks like hamburger. But didn't do track that year. And then the next year I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm done. Like, I just don't have that in me anymore. With rehab and everything, I couldn't run. I couldn't run the way that I had before. So it was just kind of like, I'm set to graduate. Yeah. It's kind of like a major case of senioritis going on too, right? So it was just indoor, outdoor for the first 2 years, and after that it was kind of called it quits.
Sure. And while you were there, when did you kind of start to realize that maybe coaching was something you'd be interested in? Or maybe it was even before you went to college?
So my road to coaching really kind of started. I always knew I wanted to be a coach, even when I was in high school. And it was just from, kind of the connections there and experiences there that I had. But like the two main coaches that really impacted me in high school that kind of made me want to do that was Bill Ryan, my receivers coach. Just the way he kind of connected, right? Depending on the player, they'd probably give you a completely different experience that played for him in high school. But in my experience with him, it really, he made a connection beyond football. He knew you a little bit. He'd be ready to catch a ton of crap because he was going to beat you, even at practice. It's like, I'm better than you. And you're just like, no way, old man. And then he'd beat you. Right? And then the other one was one of my junior high coaches, Mr. Rainey, he had a kid that was my age, Kevin Rainey, and he didn't let him play football. Like, that kid could spin it, dude. Like, he'd come to practice and stand there on the sideline and watch and hang out and throw the ball, and like the ball buzzed when he threw it and just stuck. Whack. And we always bugged him, hey, you should let Kevin play football. You should let no. He has a different road. And he did. He ended up playing golf for the Air Force Academy. So like, I think he was good. he was not only good, but he was totally good. So I think good on Coach Rainey. He knew something else was in Kevin's cards. So but those two guys really kind of impacted me to what coaching could be. And so that was kind of always part of the cards for moving forward. It was just kind of like, how can I make something else fit around coaching rather than how can I do this and then maybe coach?
Sure. Sure, and you started pretty early. While you were still on the football team, you were coaching wrestling at the high school, right?
So I started coaching wrestling my redshirt junior year of football in school. So my final 2 years of college, I was coaching Spearfish High School wrestling team. And just, it all kind of started out as like a field experience independent study class for theories of wrestling. And so that got me into talking to the head coach, and Paul Soriano was the head coach at that time over there, and he actually wrestled at the University of Wyoming. Here's some more of that crazy spiderweb stuff. So it's like he was all about it. He was like, "Yeah, come on over, do this, yeah." And he had actually spent some time in Whirlwind, Wyoming, which the connections are crazy. But so that led into a lot of mat time and coaching and getting to know the kids and this, that, and another. And
Yeah, that really started. You've been around, and coached a lot of different sports.
Yeah.
After that, you were in Colorado for.
I was in Colorado for
years.
six full school years, but essentially like 7 seasons.
Yeah. Coaching wrestling, track, football, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, what kind of kept you? Obviously that's a lot of coaching. What kind of kept you interested in, coaching all 3 of those sports?
Kids and growth, right? So the number one thing was I wanted to be the coach that I always wanted growing up. I wanted the coach to know your name. I wanted the coach to know if I had siblings. I wanted the coach that knew about home, knew if I was working, it's not I'm your coach from 3 to 5 for these 3 months. I'm going to be your coach from the time you come in as the summer of your going into your freshman year all the way until you walk across that stage, and I'm going to know you. I'm going to know your family. I want to know, how are classes going? I want to know, hey, why are you working 2 jobs? Well, I got to help with this, or I got to do this, or I want to pay for this, or, it's like, why aren't you making workouts? What else is going on? Instead of just chewing tail, it's like, why? And not that chewing tail is bad, but that's like only one language. Not every kid speaks that language. And so sometimes you've got to have a little bit different more, what am I trying to say? You got to have a little bit more in your bag, dude. You've got to be able to understand, get your point across, but at the same time, it's like, hey, what's going on? And that kid's not going to tell you anything about what's going on if he doesn't know that you give a true crap about him. So, growing up, a lot of our coaches were just like, blood and guts, let's go, and I spoke that language, and that was fine, and I could survive, but I knew there was more, because when I connected with Coach Rainey and Coach Ryan, there's a reason my connection was deeper. There's a reason I gravitated to those guys. There's a reason that to this day I still think about some of the stuff that they did at practice, or talked to me, or held me after practice, because growing up I was a pain in the ace, man. I was in trouble all the time. So it was just like, there was what can I pull from them? And the reason coaching all these sports is because all the kids, you tell these kids to be multi-sport athletes, yeah, well, you better be able to be a multi-sport coach then, in some capacity. Not everybody's work schedule or family schedule can do that, but some capacity you could be there to help out. And the need for growth. Every sport is going to put you through different situations. Every sport is going to put you in a different skill set. Yeah, you got your God-given ability, but this skill set is applicable here. This skill set is applicable here. And what's the crossover? So the more sports that I coached, not only competed in, but like the more sports that you can coach gives you more tools in your bag to apply when you're at another practice.
Sure.
And so, and plus it's that inner kid too. You stay connected and you don't let go, right? Yeah. You might not be able to go do it anymore, but you still get to be a part of all this stuff. You get to have fun. You get to celebrate the highs and the lows, and it's like, okay, man, how do you bring it back? And that's part of being that inner kid, right? Sure. So.
And then after that, you obviously made your way back to Rapid City at Stevens. What kind of brought you back to the area, and why was, Stevens, I guess, the right fit for you?
Yeah, my wife is originally from Rapid. She grew up here, went to high school, graduated high school here, and so down in Denver, you got all the time that I was committing to coaching, all the time that we were committing to our jobs, and we had two little guys, at that time. My boys were 3 and 1, and literally I show back up at the house at 8:00, and it's like, oh, help me put the kids to bed, and I'm gone before anybody's up in the morning. And so it was one of them things where it's like, hey, I need a dad. And I need a husband, not a roommate. And so it was one of them things where it's like, you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, we got to make a change. And that's going to come on my end. I've asked essentially seven years, of that sacrifice on my wife's side, and so now I gotta give back a little bit. And so she got a gig back home. I go, hey, okay, let's do this. Open it up, start looking, and crap, man, it was like I'm thinking, oh yeah, we'll see how long it takes to get a gig, man, within weeks, she's like, hey, I got a call. I was like, what? Holy crap, okay. Man, I thought this might take a little bit longer. And then she got a gig at Prairie Berry, which that was a sweet place for her to work. They were just starting to grow, and she got to build at that time she was in HR. She got to build the HR department and make, it was like her own little project, which was super cool. And then Stevens, on my end, I had done my student teaching at Stevens. So I had a couple connections there, talking, doing some things, and so that's how I ended up there. I didn't have connections to Central at that time, and I didn't really have any connections besides my mother-in-law taught art at STM. But I was like, dude, I'm at schools that have like 15, like at that time, because my time in Colorado, Arapahoe was the smallest school, and that was at, I want to say they were at like 1,400 kids. And that was at Creek too, and they were like, at that time I think they were like 3,500 kids, and Thunder Ridge was right around like 1,700, I want to say. But for me to go back to, we had more kids on the football team than they have in high school. That wasn't an option for me. I couldn't wrap my head around that. And so my connections at Stevens, I was like, okay, I know Stevens. I know what they're about. I know the size of the school. I think I'm going to push for that. And so that's how I ended up there. So, yeah, coaching football. Paul Ferdinand was the head football coach at that time. Yeah, man. Brian Mosher was the head wrestling coach at that time. And, Ferdy was on – they were trying to figure out how to get – West River football back to winning. And it's like, okay, I got some ideas for you, because all the programs that I was at were winning. So this is what we did. What are you guys doing? There was a lot of culture override and new implementation of stuff. Quite the opposite with Stevens Wrestling. It was one of those things where it's like, they're winning. They are very successful. So ego check yourself and say, hey, I don't need to overhaul anything. Don't be that guy. It was a walk in the room and how can I help you? You know what I mean? Nothing needs changed. But we might need a little extra dash of salt. Add a little salt to the dish, and all of a sudden it's a different dish. So there was a couple things that I grew up, just my style of wrestling that got added a little bit. And then I was under some great wrestling coaches down in Colorado. So when I was at Creek, I worked for a guy named Louis Sondergroth, who was a freaking stud. He's D1 All-American. Like, he was Olympic alternate. He was an inter-service champion. He was a dude. He was a member of the national team. Like, a dude. And so just sponged off that guy. And then Casey Paul was my head wrestling coach at Thunder Ridge, who, Gillette guy, here we go again with the network of the Kevin Bacon Spiderweb. Because, Casey Paul was there at Thunder Ridge. He taught a lot of stuff, just structure-wise, how to really structure a program and practice and things like that. And then when I was at Arapahoe, Steve Sisler was the head coach there. He's still the head coach. And he was bringing a little bit of Colorado flavor. He wrestled at Western. And then his old man, Bob Sisler, oh, man, he's Bob Sisler is like one of the guys that you wish everybody could meet. Just a great human being. Unreal. And I've never seen him excited. Look, let me rephrase that. I've seen him excited. I've never seen him get upset or wound up. Everything is just even keel. And at that time, I was still like throwing water on a grease fire, like stuff splattering everywhere. And not that I'm like that at all anymore, right? But it was like that was that sponge effect out of that program. How do I keep myself under control? Because these guys can do it, and they're in the same situation that I'm in. So how can I still have the same effect, still make the same decisions, still see things the same way, still show the same fire to kids, but not be all over the place? But Bob Sisler, dude, he's a dude. He's awesome. But yeah, that was kind of some of that stuff down there that it's like, how do I take some of those little things that I learned, and if there's a gap somewhere or something, and that's the awesome part about wrestling, is like every single kid, it's not a cookie cutter. Every single kid is going to have his own little thing. Even if they're coming out of the same program. Hey, this program, it's a CrossFit series. They're just going to run the heck out of that. Or they're going to tilt and wing you all over the place. Okay, that's probably what's taught in that room and what's drilled every day. But this kid is really kind of funky. He kind of does a little bit of this and a little unorthodox here, and his takedowns are a little bit different. His mat work's a little bit different. He doesn't ride the same way. He maybe hangs out on bottom and he's a counter guy versus a freaking explosive. Get me out of here! I got my stand up. I got my one. We're on our feet now. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, hey, this could help this kid, and instead of like trying to take anything over, because there wasn't any need for that. So Stevens was a trip, man.
Yeah, and then after that you had a first stint here at South Dakota Mines.
Yeah.
What kind of were some of those differences in just getting used to the differences between college coaching and high school coaching, and what are some of those similarities too?
It was crazy. So, at that time, I applied. So Ferdinand had stepped down as the Stevens head coach. And I'm like, okay, I want to try my hand at this. I think I got the skills. I think I can do this. and ended up not getting the gig, which at that time I was so pissed. Just pissed. Totally not seeing the message, right? It's like, no, I'm busy being mad. I don't want to see that. I'm being mad. Let me have my temper tantrum. And so once that kind of calmed down a little bit and I kind of started figuring some things out, I was like, okay, so what am I missing? Obviously, I don't have something that people are looking for. What is that? And it was like, okay, well, Stacy Collins is going into his second year here at Mines, and he is electric, dude. He had come to watch practice. He had called the coach. He's all over the place. He's in your face, which you want as your college head coach, right?
There's a reason he's at Penn State.
Yeah, it's like, hey, hometown team, you better know who the head coach is, right? And he was doing a great job of that. He was marketing the team. He was getting them out there. And if you've ever talked to Stace, dude, he sucks you in. You're just like, tell me more because I want to learn more. Hey, you're awesome. He is like the encyclopedia. Some people, right, don't even know what an encyclopedia is anymore, but it's Google now. So, but you could ask him anything, he's gonna have an answer. You could ask him about this guy, and he's had a conversation with him. You could ask him technique or drill on this, and he's got 27. But at the same time, he's so personable with you. He's that coach that I was looking for as a player, and the whole reason that I started coaching. And here I am with an opportunity to learn from him. And so a connection I had, knew Stace, and so he kind of reached out to Stace and goes, hey, there's this schmo from Stevens who's looking to grow. He's looking to learn more. He's looking to be educated. What do you think? And he goes, send him over. I'll talk to him. And so I must have said something the right way. Maybe it was because I told him I'd do the laundry and throw out T-shirts or something for him. But he said, yeah, we need some. We'll take you and kind of put you with the defensive secondary, and we need another set of eyes on defensive side. So let's do this. Which Stace is a defensive guy, so that even put me even closer to him. And so it was unreal. And so it was a great opportunity that Stace extended me, and I probably learned more about football overall and coaching and how to coach in that spring through that next spring than I probably had in the previous 8 years, 7 years, whatever it was. Here we are doing math again on Friday. Come on, man.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah,
no
Josh,
math.
what are we doing here?
No math.
What are we doing? Yeah, and at that time while I was there, dude, we had some kick-butt defensive secondary guys. Josh Thomas was here, who ended up being a GNAC All-Conference guy. John Tyler was here. He was a GNAC All-Conference guy. Who else? Derek Thomas came in as a freshman when I came in as a coach. He was unreal. He played football and ran track here. Alex Klatt was here. We had some dudes, and they were so fun to coach. Yeah, man. JD was our DC at that time, and so he took over play calls and just coaching the safeties because he was trying to coach. We played a too high safety secondary and trying to coach the corners, and it was just like, Sales, take the corners, I'll take the safeties, and it worked out pretty good. It was nice. It was was a good time.
Yeah, and then after that, it obviously helped you out because you did wind up getting that head coaching gig. It just wasn't at Stevens; it was at Central.
Yep. So I was here for a spring and then that full season, which Stace did a great job with the program, and then through the next spring, and then Central opens up, Rapid City Central, and so I went in and I wasn't sold on it. I wasn't sold on it because it was one of those things where it's like, I kind of like the cake that I'm eating right now. Do I want to stop to go maybe eat a different cake? And I went in, I talked to Stace, and I'm like, what do you think? He goes, Rob, yeah, what do you mean what I think? Put your name in, see what you, if anything, you get experience doing another interview. And if you don't get it, you're still coaching here. What do you mean, what do I think? Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, cool. So I'm not getting fired if I apply for this job. And he, stays. Oh, my gosh. He goes, Rob, put your name in. We'll prep you so you get the job. And he talked to me about building a program. Hey, do you have this in there? Do you have this in there? Do you have this in there? And then I felt like I was in high school calc class all over again. I was just like writing notes like crazy, right? And the only reason I got that job was because talking to Stace, prepping, 'cause, like I told you, man, he's like the encyclopedia of organization, because down to the nth degree, man. It was like, it wasn't just, hey, this is what we're doing today, and here's the drills that we're going to run through and whatever. I mean, he could tell you to the minute and the crossover from the drills into what we were doing that day to how it also helped the football, the defensive side of the football and the offensive side of the football. This is why we're doing this drill today, because we are doing this in the other two facets of the football game. Like, it's just kind of like, oh, wow, okay. And this is why we're going to cut it down at this time, and this is why we're going to transition like this. Man, very detailed. And so that was the only reason, I guarantee you, because I'm not smart. I'm a smart aleck, but I'm not smart. And that was the only reason I probably passed through that interview process, is because talking to Stace. That's the only reason.
You were there for 4 years, right?
Yeah, I was there for 3. Well, yeah. Awesome 3 years. Unbelievable 3 years. Coaching those kids, doing the things that we did. Unbelievable coaching staff. Oh, my gosh. We had so much fun at that high school staff. Oh, my gosh. And everybody was on the same page on that program. Everybody was on the same page. I just, I kind of figured out about halfway through year 2 that I wasn't very good at politics. I was not a politician. So you'll not see me run for anything with politics, because I'm very, there's no poker face to me. I'm very, this is me, this is why, and this is how, and we're moving. And so to be a header, you've got to have a little bit of politician in you. And I just don't have it. And it sucked. It was a rough breakup. We'll put it that way. It was a rough breakup when I left Central. Not only for the players, but like the coaching staff was that I talked about. Like, dude, we hung out, man. It was our families hung out, and coaches all liked each other, got along, on the same page. And that's like a rarity, to have 11 coaches, 12 coaches on your staff, and all of you are speaking the same language, moving the same direction. It was hard, and it was a great group of dudes, man. And the players were unbelievable. Still stay in touch with a lot of those guys, but I just didn't have the politics side of me. and it could have been a maturity thing. It probably was. There's probably definitely a flavor of maturity there that caused some of that stuff, me being stubborn instead of just shut up and listen. It doesn't mean you have to go implement and change. Just shut up and listen. I wanted to not. I didn't want to listen. Hey, no, you're telling me I need to do something different, and I'm telling you that we don't need to. Rough breakup there. And there was kind of a time there where when I stepped down, I didn't know if I wanted to coach football anymore. It was kind of like my boys were getting a little older, and they were getting busy. And it was kind of like, maybe I just need to go be dad. Full-time dad. I don't know. I probably would have been fired from that gig. My wife probably would have fired me and said, no, you need to go find something else to do. You're screwing up my system. I got a phone call. Hey, I see this and this and this happen. Why don't you come talk? And it was Zach Tinker. Zach was the OC for Stace when I was here. And, being at the high school and having that connection, Stace came in the high school recruiting, Tinker came in recruiting. And so it was a good hand in hand there where it was kind of like, hey, let's talk. Which is, it wasn't the only reason Ira Murphy ended up here. I mean, he had his eyes on coming here anyway. But it didn't hurt, It was like, hey, Dan, I'm going to have Ira in the office. What do you want me to tell him? That kind of stuff. So Tink, he's like, why don't you come talk about it? We'll do this, that, and another. And he's like, why don't you help us with spring ball? Okay, I'll help with spring ball. And so did a little bit of spring ball and kind of got the itch again, and the rest is history per se. He offered me an opportunity to start working on the offensive side of the ball, coaching running backs, and been here since. So,
What is some of that turnover in your head coaches here been like? What are some of those adjustments? I'm guessing there probably wasn't much from Tink to Stace since he was his OC, but then the culture shift or transition to Coach Floor as well.
Yeah, every head coach is going to have their own little flavor, right? You could order a white chocolate mocha at Starbucks. You could order a white chocolate mocha at another coffee place. I know, what's another coffee place? Scooters. You could order a white chocolate mocha from somewhere downtown. It's all the same drink, but it's all got a little bit different flavor, right? Sure. Even though Tink was Stace's OC, Tink had his own little flavor of how he wanted a program to be ran. And so you've got to learn how that works, right? And it goes back to that whole thing where it's like, you're not the boss, so you're not calling the shots. You don't have to agree with all of them, but you need to get the job done the way the header wanted you to get the job done, but with your own little dash of sales, right? And so it's like, how does that look with a new head coach? How's that look from Stace to Tink? And then again, from Tink to Charlie, and they all have their own little way of getting the mission done. And Tink had, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're doing. Boom, go. And so you went and did it. Charlie has a little bit more of, well, what do you think? What do you think on that? Well, I guess we really don't need a hard sell when I walk out of here. I just need to make sure that you're getting the job done at practice. You good with that? Yeah. You got a drill to get that done? Yeah. Okay, cool. We're moving on. Where Tink, he wanted to know what that drill was, which was fine because guess what? He's the one calling shots. So you're gonna tell them what drill you're running. And then, with a drill with Stace, you were expected to be able to do that breakdown, that detailed breakdown of why you were running that drill. Okay, cool. And he'll give you some latitude, but hey, you've done high volume drills, a lot of pounding. We're trying to look at some load management stuff. Do you have a way to change that? You better be able to say yes, or I will find a way. So there's some of that stuff, and then Charlie, he's kind of like, okay, he trusts you to be that professional. There's a reason he hired you, or there's a reason in my case I kept you around, and so I trust you. Go do it. Sure. You have a little bit more autonomy, I guess.
Yeah, obviously, transitioning from NAIA to Division II is a process.
Oh, yeah.
And that process kind of started with Stacy.
Yep.
But consistently there's been steps forward throughout that time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, you think about it like tech, a.k.a. mines, however you want, whatever group it is that you're talking to, associated with a time gap. It's kind of like, okay, how did you do that? How did you get this? How do you get this? And it's recruiting, right? It's all about the recruiting. And so you start recruiting different areas. You start recruiting a different way. You start saying, hey, you get a chance to be this change and be a part of the foundation that made D2 South Dakota Mines, right? You get to be a part of that. You get to set the precedent. You get to do this, that, and another. And so it's how you recruit it. And then little bit different recruiting stuff as the D2 era kind of really got settled, per se. Hey, now we can start recruiting a little bit here. Now we can recruit a little bit different here. And also, like, when coaches change, not just the head coach, but like the assistant coaches come in, they got different connections too. Hey, I got a connection to Phoenix now. Okay, great. We're going to get into some different high schools in Phoenix. Okay, cool. We're going to go recruit Colorado Mines Backyard. How do we have more impact there? Well, sales knows some coaches. We're not just another face. Hey, okay, cool. How do we not miss out on the top-end Wyoming talent coming out of there? Hey, we got a couple of Charlies from Gillette, which is a whole nother set of stories. We could probably do a whole podcast on him being Gillette, right? And me being from Sheridan. There's all, that might have to be like a membership podcast, because some of those
two together.
Yeah, some of those stories might not be family friendly.
I think we can figure out a way to set that up.
Right? But as coaches come in and go and change and get different opportunities and do this, it opens up different recruiting areas. And so it's like, how do you recruit that? Well, that depends on the philosophy and the vision of recruiting by that head coach. You might have to phone recruit that. You might, hey, do that through camps. Hey, we're not going to send you there for a week. How can you get it done in 2 days? Okay, you got to get creative, right? And so that's how that whole thing kind of is evolved into where we're at now, right? It's how can we best utilize who's on staff, who are the connections, and what's our recruiting budget, right? How do we want to do this? Well, I want to, philosophy A puts a lot of emphasis here. Philosophy B puts a lot of emphasis over here. So how do you make it work?
Sure. Before we get too far into this, I kind of wanted to bring up, our facilities. O'Hara Stadium has one of probably the best atmospheres, most unique environments around, D1, D2, any level.
Yeah.
How much of a factor does that play into when you're recruiting and, during a game itself?
Oh, okay. So recruiting, recruiting. Okay, we already kind of were talking recruiting, so I'll stick on that. So you talk to a kid, and it's like, yeah, it's like a drive-in movie theater, but instead of a movie, you're watching a football game. Some of these kids are like, a what? Because not very many towns have a drive-in movie theater anymore. So they're kind of going, yeah, it's called Netflix, bro. You know, I can watch it wherever I am. I can be in my car and watch that. You know, I'm streaming on my phone right here. But, you know, some of the parents still remember, and so they're like, oh, that's awesome, right? Because let's get real. Not every parent is into feeling the elements of that game. They want to watch their kid play. They want to watch the team play, and they want to watch that team win. They just don't want to be an icicle doing it. So if they have an opportunity to sit in their heated car and just crack a window and honk every once in a while, they're down. So a lot of parents will get a smile and be like, okay, cool. And so then you go down, you take them to the stadium, and they see it. They're like, oh, my gosh, yeah, you're on 3 different levels. Look at this, look at that, look at that. And so, like, part of that recruiting deal when they're on campus, you drive them through the stadium and things like that. And there's been some cool trips, man, where they show up and it's like, you know, the lighting's just perfect, and then all of a sudden it'll start to snow a little bit. And it's like a Christmas card, you know, and everybody smells the cookies and everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. And then there's other times where it's 100 degrees, you know, and you're like, I don't want to be sitting up here, you know, things like that. But it's like the vantage point that you're watching a game from, and you don't have to worry about Joe Schmo in front of you spilling his popcorn all over you because they picked up third down, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like, I got my own little space, right? But like game day atmosphere, it is awesome. It's pretty sweet. So you got everybody in the stands behind you. You got the family. You got the student body. You got all that going on, right? And then across from you are the parents, the alumni, the president tent. You got all that stuff going on, and you got the frat over there with the grill, dude, with the smoker, and you smell that all game. I love those guys, but I hate those guys, right? And so it's like, hey, they are tailgating, pre-gaming that thing through the entire game, and it's awesome. It's an awesome atmosphere. And, you know, a lot of trucks are backed up, and they got maybe their lawn chairs sitting in the back, which is totally Sodak, Wyoming, right? That's kind of who connects, and a little bit of Nebraska. I'll give Nebraska some. There's some cool stuff in Nebraska, but overall, I don't know about that place. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I got friends from Nebraska.
Don't want to turn off any.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm not here to make you mad.
Listen up.
Yeah, exactly. Justice, ignore that. But like, yeah, it's like you're just chilling. Maybe they got a little hibachi grill on the tailgate or whatever it is, man, and they're doing their thing. It's an unreal atmosphere, and people are walking around, and you don't have to worry about somebody losing your seat or somebody, you know, cram 2 extra people in on the bleachers, and now so you're hugging cheeks and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So no, it's sweet. It's pretty sweet.
And it gets loud. I mean, during that Colorado Mesa game, season finale last year, it was loud. I had opened the window in the press box just to experience it a little bit. Yeah, the decibel level is up there, man. It is up there. Yeah, and obviously you can experience that yourself. Single game tickets, season tickets available.
The 2022 Hardrocker football season is fast approaching. Feel the excitement of game day Saturday in Rapid City with fellow Hardrocker friends and alumni this fall. Be there for every home game when you purchase football season tickets that begin at just $75. And remember that South Dakota Mines football features the region's premier tailgating fan experience that happens inside the stadium, with season tickets still available for ramps A, B, and C spaces. Hi, this is Tom Rudabush, the voice of the Hardrockers. Head coach Charlie Floor and the Hardrockers are coming off a breakthrough winning season and are seeking to contend in the rugged Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference with a home schedule featuring top rivals Black Hills State and Chadron State. Get your Hardrocker season tickets today at GoRockers.com or call the Hardrocker ticket office at 605-394-2351. Season tickets are on sale right now for the 2022 season. It's a great day to be a Hardrocker.
Scoop them up. Go get them.
Right.
Call Anita.
Yeah, call Anita. Call Brad.
Yeah, exactly.
Still with Rob Sales here. Getting a little bit more into, your experience with the running back position specifically. You've had some pretty successful student athletes here during your time.
Yeah.
You had Kevin Thompson and Darian Cowart early on.
Yep, Dorian was a stud, man. Yep, KT. Funny story about that. I'm going to derail you a little bit. Yeah. So when I was here the first go around of doing DBs, and I was with Stace, KT Kevin came in. That was his freshman year. KT was here for like a decade, but and somehow like played and competed the whole time. I don't know how that worked out. KT, I'm kidding, kind of. But yeah, he came in and he had some hair, man. I mean, he had that thing picked out, and so like seeing him come in as a freshman and out of Washington, me being on the defensive side of the ball, and then when I came back getting to coach him and already having that connection, it was awesome. It was cool. Yeah, Kev's a creature, man.
Yeah, and they were in a pretty good timeshare, but I think between the two of them, they had 1,200, 1,300 rushing yards one year.
Yeah, and then the year after that, my first year, that was the year before I took over RBs, and then the year I came back, I think they were up around 1,700 or 1,800. Yeah.
And then, obviously, right after that, Conor Silvera took over.
Yeah,
Conor. He was an all-RMAC kid. He was one of the best backs in the conference.
Yeah, the horse, man. He's a horse. Yeah, that Conor was it would have been interesting to see Conor have that full season healthy. I mean, he rushed for 1,200 yards. 1,200 yards, he only played like 8 games. It's like, dude.
Yeah, you're flirting with a 2,000-yard season there.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's insane. And I still feel bad for him with that one. That was an injury that really stunk. But at the same time, I mean, that injury, you talk about these impact running backs, KT, who is just explosive. You had Dorian, who is elusive, and you got Conor coming in there that's just a power back that has some shake to him. And him getting hurt really kind of opened up the door to some of these other guys that are kind of, before that, were just kind of role playing backs. Really, him being hurt, and then like KT being hurt that year. And then you had Quarter Cropsey, who's a guy who, man, if you just wanted to get him touches, he was so freaking fast. And it's like, get him a touch, get him to the edge, and go. Get him some space. And he was kind of bunged up a little bit, and so here's this little twerp, right? Zach Hoopman out of Douglas, Wyoming, right? So guess what, Hoopy? You're one of the smartest kids on this team. He's a chemie major. So, way to pick an easy one. Out of Douglas, Wyoming. He's 160 pounds. If you looked at him from far away, you'd think he weighed 190. But as you got closer, you realized he was only like 5'5". So, I'm just kidding. I'm shaving a couple inches off him. He was probably about like 5'7". He wasn't the fastest kid, and I'm not trying to talk bad about Hoopy. I mean, you call him up right now, and he'd be like, "No, he ain't lying." And you go, "Hey, your first college football game, pack in the mail, is going to be against Colorado Mines," because at that time, Conor was like a game time decision. Like, can he go? Can he go? Can he go? And he tried to do some stuff, and he just couldn't. So, I mean, that was. it was a breakout game for Hoopy because he showed what discipline and understanding of a concept and a scheme can do for a player. Because he rushed for, I want to say, like 140 yards that game. I had a couple tutties, and he just did his thing, like out of nowhere. Like dark horse coming from the number 4 spot, right? And he that really set the tone for what the next year, and these guys that if you're not the number 1 guy, it's okay, because you got some roles to do. It might be on SWAT, it might be 5 snaps a game, just kind of give a guy a load break and things like that, or it might be, hey dude, you got to be ready to go because you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. And so Crop Dog, he was here. He did some things at a press show, coming out of press show. But then, like Hoopy, man, I mean, that was an opportunity for him. Conor going down, it stunk for the team overall, and it stunk for Conor specifically, but it was the opportunity for Hoop. And it was a great lesson for some of these young guys where it's like, dude, stay ready so you don't got to get ready, type thing. So that was good. Yeah.
Well, and it was really a very similar situation with Ahmad too last year, right? I mean, he had the great 2019 season. Yeah. Obviously, 2020 COVID only got 4 games. Yeah. Then even last year he got hurt early.
Yep.
Then Caleb, Orlando really stepped in. Caleb, I think, was probably only 3rd or 4th on the depth chart going into the year, and then he really. I mean, he had a 89-yard game against Colorado Mines. He went over the century mark. And then, unfortunately, he wound up going down.
I know, right?
But
yeah, it's and that's the thing. Like, for you guys, like recruits, if recruits are listening to this, everybody wants to be the guy. Everybody wants to be the guy. If you don't want to be the guy, you probably have the wrong mentality. But understanding that maybe walking in or the first couple of years, you've got to learn how to be that guy. You're just going to be a guy that needs to be ready and continue to learn, right? And so it's like, what's that number 1 guy? What's that number 2 guy doing that I'm not doing? What are they able to do that I'm not able to do yet? And so is it work ethic? Is it understanding of scheme? Is it, he's just flat out better than me right now because that guy's 21 and I'm 18. It might be some of that stuff. So it's like understanding that situation and not reacting emotionally out of something is so crucial. And, Caleb Roth, like Hoopman and Caleb Roth, it was like 2 peas in a pod. When they were standing next to each other, you didn't know who was who, And not that Caleb didn't have this when he came in, the mentality of, hey, I'm just going to do my role. I'm going to do my job until they say you're the guy. But that's that impact that Hoop had before him. And so, yeah, we're down in Adams and Ahmad goes down and you knew it was bad just by the situation and the cut. You knew, and it was just kind of like, crap. Okay, Lando, time to step up. Here we go. And he started doing his thing, and then bam, Lando goes down, and it's like, okay. You look at Caleb, and you're like, okay, buddy, let's roll. And he did. He took that man, and so impressed with how he responded to that. And he did his thing, and he, like you said, he had a couple games there where he was really impressive. He was leadership vocally. He was starting to really come into his own there, just by leading by example with play. He always led by example, being at practice, work ethic, punctuality, all that stuff. He already had all those. And it was his opportunity to prove in play that he was where he was supposed to be. And then, bam, he gets hurt. And so you're sitting here going, holy buckets, what's going on? What do we need to do? How do we change this up? Is it something that a drill we're doing? And, we kind of sat down with the trainers and sat down with the coaches, and it's like, is it this, that, or another? And it was just what it was. But by that time, Orlando had kind of healed up. His shoulder separation had healed up, and he was coming back. Barrios was really kind of coming into his own too. So he was getting some packs in there and doing some really good things. And so it was those 3-4 guys, number 3, number 4 on that depth chart in that position group that were really getting it done. Were able to step up, continue to do what they need to do, and not have to overhaul or completely change how the offensive philosophy is every Saturday. So, yeah, man, stay ready.
That obviously is a big help this year now, too, bringing back Caleb and Orlando.
Yep.
We touched on this a little bit earlier, and just how the transition, and you've been consistently growing the program, over the last 7-8 years. What do you think the next steps are, to get to, that elevated level where you're competing for a conference title?
The next step for what is controllable as a player. Okay, we'll look at this in two different ways. The next step, what is controllable as a player, is continuing to close the gap, right? You look at the Pueblos, you look at the Colorado Mines, you look at how Mesa's coming along. Western, Jazz Bane's down in Western is kicking butt right now. It's kind of like, how do you close the gap? Okay, how do you close the gap on what we're doing? Well, that goes back to your work ethic, your follow-through, your accountability to self with reaching expectation and meeting expectation, right? And so that's as a player. And then, the other part is finalizing or finishing, probably is a better way to put it, finishing in crucial spots in the game. It is 3rd and 2, and we're driving. Pick up the sticks. Hey, it is 3rd and 15. We get a stop. That is huge. Don't give up a 16-yard route. As a player, you've got to finish, right? You got to finish. You got to answer the bell. And so that, as a player, is probably next steps, and continuing to do those things. And the players have brought that up, too. They see it. They know it. They know exactly what they got to do. But they are still 20, 21, 22-year-old guys, right? So they need reminded. You want to look at them as adults, and they're going to be able to handle their business 99% of the time. And some are, and then some are going to be down around 80%, and 80% still sounds really good, but not when, it's a 3-point game. 80% is bad. It's like, do you want to roll the dice on that? And so things that are probably outside of a player's control would be, probably some facility stuff would be the next step for a program. Getting a couple cleaned up things, maybe improving a couple of different things. I'm not getting into specifics on the facility, but, probably, and because everybody on campus knows, right? Hey, this is the next step for what we need to do to continue to grow, not just a football program, but like every program on campus. Yeah. Every program on campus is going to benefit from some of these facility upgrades and changes and stuff like that. And so it's like, you start doing things like that instead of sport specific things, you're your impact grows. The larger your impact, the more likely it is for donors. The more donors, the more likely it is for everybody else to get behind it. And it's a domino effect with that kind of stuff. So it's like being really smart with some of that stuff would probably be the next step outside of player control.
And it is a slow process.
Yep.
We've only been D2 for still less than 10 years.
Yep.
We'll get there. It just kind of sometimes it feels like it's baby steps.
Oh, man, right? Yeah, sometimes it's like, hey, did I baby step backwards to go forwards? It's like, man, take 1, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, however that saying goes. It's like, dang it, it's taking forever.
Well, that pretty much wraps us up. I'm excited to see you guys this fall. We just over a month, really. We got, fall camp starting up here in about 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
First game, September 1. First home game, September 10.
Yeah, man.
Good luck this season.
Yeah.
You can still pick up your tickets. Thanks for joining us today, Rob.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been a good time.
Thanks for joining us on the Hardrocker Huddle. This is Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Hardrocker Huddle with host Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. Follow on Apple and Spotify.